Thank you so much for the invitation. So honored to be here speaking with you about how we can improve labor and food security with the help of AI. So as mentioned by Eric, I'm Dr. Carlos Gaitan. My background is in atmospheric sciences, and I have always been passionate about how weather and water control many decisions at the farm level. I will start by saying that the weather affects all of us, but especially high-value land managers. From maybe speaking here to the choir, but from frost and pest prevention, some of our other panelists are going to talk about pests, water and the energy nexus, labor, wildfires, safety, compliance, insurance. All of those ones are by themselves multi-billion-dollar opportunities, and they all affect farmers one way or the other. So we are talking about a very large TAM. Actually, last week, Khosla Ventures actually quantified that the TAM of weather services could be around 100 billion, which is a pretty big figure. So the situation here is that unfortunately, the National Weather Service all over the world have been using the same kind of technology since the Normandy, where they divide the world in boxes, and everybody inside of a box receives exactly the same forecast. So these divisions are totally arbitrary, in depending on the size of the box. They don't follow rivers, they don't follow mountains, they don't follow coasts. And because of that, there are lots of microclimates that cannot be addressed effectively if they happen at the subgrid level. So that generalization, unfortunately, causes significant financial losses for land managers. And we're talking about, of course, today about agriculture, but also if you think about a wind turbine operator, a solar farm, a ski resort, a mining operator, they all are affected by microclimates. However, they're receiving data and forecasts that are general for a big region, almost at the county level, not at the location that they care. For example, here in the right-hand side, we have a location of the El Duero region in Portugal, famous for its wines. And you can see changes in elevation, land cover, water availability, all leading to different management practices. However, they are all in the same grid of the European Center or the US forecast. So there are significant loss the irrigate or under irrigate, for example. So what we do at Labs is we provide like a location-specific point forecasting technology that uses the information from these imperfect weather models that are valuable and very useful for different applications. And then we refine them using IoT sensors at the farm level, at the asset level. We are not a hardware company. I had learned my lessons before. I used to work in a hardware company. So, it's, as they say, hardware is hard, capital intensive, and has thin margins. What we do is we partner, we leverage existing hardware. We work with existing hardware manufacturers to provide that IoT instrumentation at the farm level. We use it as ground truth, then use our proprietary machine learning technology to refine the information from NOAA, from different organizations and public that provide gridded weather data and provide better forecast recommendations and alerts tailored to each specific location. This technology allows us to reduce the forecasting errors up to 85%. In many cases, for the case of relative humidity, temperatures around 70%, wind speeds around 50%, error reduction, and all of those ones are, for example, very important if you have to do day-to-day operations. So, as mentioned before, all of these improvements in accuracy at the farm level, at the location level, almost at the field level, lead to improved labor management, water management, better safety for compliance and regulations with OSHA, for example, as some of you might be aware now we have more regulations, more restrictions on what type of labor can be done. We are entering summer, the first heat waves are happening, but now there are very hard restrictions on the exposure that labor could have under inclement weather. And of course, that leads to better yield in agriculture or load forecasting in energy. This is a very interesting visualization that I wanted to show with you or share with you about improve labor scheduling and vegetation management that we created in close collaboration with the Forest Service and with the Nature Conservancy. Here in this fire weather view, for example, it was created to manage vegetation, but also to tell them when they can perform a control burn to prevent catastrophic forest fires. The same or a very similar index was used for or is used by our farmers, our users here in Imperial Valley, where they need to understand when to irrigate. So here, for example, at the bottom, you can see in a very simple color-coded combination yellow, orange, and green, with green being the days of the week where you actually can perform vegetation management or a control burn. We have similar visualizations for our users in agriculture, telling them when they can use pesticides, fertilizers. We have water balance, including evapotranspiration that was funded by the California Energy Commission. We provide in situ evapotranspiration to help with water management and save, you know, uh, hundreds of thousands of acres feet of water per year to our users. In terms of performance, this is some customers allowed us to share this information with you, but I wanted to share some of the farms in Minnesota, Nebraska, in terms of how the temperature and relative humidity forecast allow them to improve versus what they were getting from the National Weather Service. So the current forecast from the National Weather Services are marked in purple lines in all of those four charts, and in red charts are the uh, benchmark labs forecast up to 15 days. This is data that has been compiled over a whole growing season, and it shows that our errors, even at the 15-day scale, that is at the end of this bottom axis, 168 hours into the future, is still lower than the day ahead error that they were receiving for their preserves and for their farms. That allowed them to, the significant error reduction allowed them to reduce the false positives in terms of scheduling labor by more than 50%. And in this particular case, they were doing vegetation management. They were concerned and they need to ask for permits to do control burns that involve having um, helicopters, aircrafts with water suppression capabilities ready, and lots of permits. So these also allow them to be more effective in terms of the permits, reduce the idle time of those helicopters, and schedule activities much better and safer. In a nutshell, we have also great traction to share with you guys here. We serve wineries in California, Europe. We signed our first winery last year. In Catalonia, we had worked with big organizations like the Nature Conservancy. And in our pipeline, we are very excited to mention that we focus on helping land managers, like high value asset managers, and not necessarily individual farmers. We are a business to business company to a certain degree, so we do not go knocking at each individual winery. We work with farm managers that have many wineries under management or bigger organizations that control many fields. Um, we have strategic partnerships with leading hardware manufacturers in the ag space, in the energy space, weather stations that are from $300 to $20,000. We serve them all. We are an Android-like solution. We like to play well with all the existing hardware providers. We don't want that to be a limitation for the farmers in order to receive our analytics. And we had also had great traction with investors, thanks to our investors of NextView, Beyond the Bounds, Snow Spruce, Refashioned, and prestigious accelerators like Techstars also want to give a notch to the National Science Foundation and the California Energy Commission, because with their grants, they risked our product. We have fantastic testimonials. Again, this is an ABC News. Farm managers here in California mentioning that our technology not only allowed them to reduce water consumption up to 10%, but because they were managing more effectively their land. And we're talking about pesticides, fertilizer, water management, stressing the plant the right amount. They saw gains even from 50 to 100% in terms of the previous yields when they were not using any solution to manage their crops. We also have a testimonial here from Mike Betts from AgWorld, recently purchased by Semius, a Canadian company. They have 2 million sensors in the West Coast. And Mike, as VP of Partnerships, highlights that one of our biggest modes is not only, of course, our increased accuracy and how we can help the farmers with the opportunity cost of getting better weather data, but also because we are, again, like an Android-like solution, it makes possible to integrate many hardware manufacturers, and for AgWorld to only maintain one API instead of having 10 bespoke integrations or 15 bespoke integrations. That also makes easier for the end customer to get data, so they don't have to jump and see soil moisture from manufacturer A in one app, a weather station manufacturer B in another app, and leaf wetness from a manufacturer C in another app. We can see everything in one API, and that is very convenient as it saves headaches and management stress to our farm managers. The competitive landscape of where we are, so you have an idea of where we sit in terms of like the value proposition. Our closest analog is an Australian company called The Yield, focusing in wineries in the maritime continent. However, they are also a management company. They install their sensors, they receive investment from Bosch, and they are managing they install them and maintain their crops. We are totally a software company. We believe that farm managers are the best suited persons to keep doing the job that they trained for, and we are an analytical layer that gives them the opportunity to decrease costs. So our incentives are very aligned with farm managers. They are paid to reduce inputs and maximize outputs, and that's exactly what we help them to achieve. Several companies like DTN, that is a household name in agriculture, they do not provide the level of specificity that we can. They are specializing more in row crops and even in energy more than specialty crops. That is our sweet spot. The weather company provides global forecasts, but grid forecasts, but more at the API level, is not tailoring their services to agriculture. And similar to incumbents like Dark Sky, that was purchased by Apple, now only serving Apple customers. MeteoBlue, the National Weather Services, and AccuWeather, some of them receive forecasts from or receive information from traditional weather stations, from citizen scientists, but they cannot produce forecast at the citizen scientist location. And that's how we are very different. Why now? And this is exciting in this conversation, is why I believe that our technology is fantastic to keep helping farmers all over the world, is because now connectivity is not a problem. We have weather stations that connect via Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, LoRaWAN, satellite, 5G, 3G. Climate risks are increasing, as you are aware. The emergence of AI allows us now to create tailored and asset-specific models instead of having one model that is kind of vanilla-like that serves most of the cases. Now we can tailor models to each specific farm. And we have a great team, of course, that is passionate about solving this problem of water availability, farm labor, food security, with great experience. This is our team. I wanted to say thank you to everybody, and this is in honor of our co-founder too, Chris Lund, the former NASA scientist. that passed away during COVID. So every forecast that we do is also to honor his memory, and I'm very thankful for all the contributions that he did to the company. So I will leave it here. I think that that's my um, 20 minute limit. Thank you so much.
Very
Open for
much.
questions.
I'd like anybody to get ready with a question. I'll ask the first one to get us started, but we will definitely make sure that you get a mic to ask your question. So, obviously, where we live, the weather is different from Vista and San Marcos, Escondido. I see that all the time. It can be foggy and even rainy. I go next door and it's sunny, and so that's critical. But as the environment continues to become more and more variable, do you have a specific case of the variability affected and what your technology has done for that particular customer?
Yes, of course. So you nail it. There are like so many microclimates where the difference is substantial. For example, we have a winery in Oregon that has two weather stations separated less than 3 acres, but they are in opposite sides of the mountain, so they have to be managed completely different. One receives more shade, one receives more wind, and one receives more water. So before they were using kind of very similar schedules in terms of pests and pesticides, fertilizers, labor. And because one is way more exposed to powdery mildew than the other, after looking at our information, they have been able to reduce one spraying interval over the whole year, and that is very expensive. So they are very happy, even that we only in the side of pest and disease management we help them to save one spraying, which is great. And of course, the most important part for wineries as you go up in California, Oregon, British Columbia, is frost, and getting personalized or like location specific alerts for frost is very important for them, because they can lose a crop if it's a young vine in 1 hour, if it's established vine in 3 hours. So giving alerts of it's fundamental for them, and they can manage them differently. For example, they can open sprinklers so the frost attacks the water and then the berry. Other farmers go with torches, drive around, or use big cans with diesel to burn it and warm the area. So that's a typical examples of how we can, or we have been helping our farmers to manage different fields in their farm based on their microclimates.
If you have a question, if you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll make sure you have a mic. Those that don't know, I have a secret past as a weather forecaster, and I went to a place to forecast weather. I wonder why we were having such a problem. It's on a ship, and when I went to go visit him, I looked at the bow of the ship, and one flag was moving one way, just flapping like crazy. And I turned and looked at the back of the ship, and the flag was flapping like crazy the other way. So, weather forecasting can be really difficult. Any other questions? Yep.
Yes, Carlos, I'm interested knowing whether you're working with anybody locally here in San Diego County that's working with this technology, or if not San Diego, somewhere in Southern California.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, we love to keep expanding our um, Southern California distribution here. We started working with farm managers near Coachella, Yuma, Imperial, valleys, avocados. We have some users in hemp, I would love to get farmers near San Diego County or even Temecula. If somebody is interested, I would love to bring this technology to our county and keep helping them. I'm looking forward, for example, to we are launching a powdery mildew index for wineries in the next 2 months. I would love to get local wineries involved so we can work on visualization, alerts, and a way that we can help them. So yes, we keep expanding. Farm managers in general working in specialty crops. That would be fantastic to help them here in Southern California. So if you know somebody, please send them our way, and I'm here for to help farmers. It's very hard what we are doing, and I have the utmost respect for them. So
Yeah, if you have another question, raise your hand. But I have a quick one. Where are you located, and can people come visit you and see what you do?
yeah, North County. We have offices at UTC, courtesy of the Blue Tech Incubator near the Westfield UTC Mall. So send me a note, and we'll be happy to have a coffee with you.
It's interesting. I helped start the Blue Tech Incubator, so that's good.
Oh, nice.
Hi, Carlos. I noticed in one of your slides you had looks like a photo of a wind farm, and I guess can you elaborate on what you think your application to that case is? I guess if it's anything beyond what I like the obvious, like wind speed or something.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's very interesting. So last year, actually, the Offshore Wind Innovation Hub in New York um, selected us. It was vetted by British Petroleum and Equinor because they understood that our microclimate forecasting technology transcended agriculture. So if you are, as we call it, like, high value land manager, it could be a wind farm or it could be an offshore wind farm. For wind, the value, of course, is that because we provide the forecast at the asset level where the sensor is located, we actually can provide the forecast at the turbine height. Typical forecasts go at meters, 10 meters, or at different thresholds, but not necessarily at the turbine height. And as you see in this picture, those 6 turbines are all located at different heights. So relative to where they are standing, not, but relative to sea level, yes. So that is very important because then they can translate wind into generation as they have the power curves of each individual turbines. The other use cases are operations and maintenance. Operations and maintenance in offshore wind usually account for 20 to 30% of the total cost of the project. And weather is a huge component, especially if they have to go from a port, take a vessel, and do operations. So they need to get the right weather window in order to send labor effectively. So yes, so wind, of course, wind speed, wind generation, trading, that's a potential future, but we're focusing now in agriculture, as we know that relationships in energy take time to materialize. But we are aware of the potential of offshore wind in particular.
Hello, Carlos. Thanks for your presentation. I have two questions. One's a simple marketing question. What's with Benchmark Labs? Doesn't speak much to agriculture or what you're doing, so I'm just curious about that. And the second, more importantly, is your offering a product? In other words, do you just sell it to the users and they run it, do their analysis, or is it more of a service where you're pretty involved in trying to understand the data, delivering some sort of value add, consulting, advisory, et cetera?
Thank you. Yeah, great. So I guess that I will probably this will be relevant. but this, this is also relevant. So benchmark labs because to a certain degree, first, we understand that there are many solutions there that all claim to be the latest, greatest, and best, but it's very hard to even get quantification in their web pages or in their materials of how are they the best. We wanted to benchmark against the best. We wanted to always provide the value of error reduction versus the National Weather Service versus IBM versus the AccuWeathers of the world. So that's how we started at the Genesis benchmark. The logo represents a Roman symbol of benchmarking that is an important place or site in the world, like a specific farm, for example. In terms of marketing and branding, as we understand that weather forecasts have like many different uses. We didn't want to, let's say, use the traditional green color schemes for our name, or also pointed out as we were a solution that could only serve agriculture. And that's why also our color palette and the bold typeface speaks to other audiences like insurance and energy. And we have been finding some success in those areas. Regarding the services, we provide access to our premium B2B users via API. Some of our users have never used our web interface because they ingest data from our forecast into their own yield forecasting models or decision support systems. Other subset of our users works on the field or gets access via the farm manager in the field, and they required a graphical user interface that allow them to see what is going to happen in the next few hours, in the next few days. And that's how we serve those kind of two different audiences. The premium user, API, data scientist, directly from APIs backends directly, and the persons that are doing work in the field that might need some decision support for irrigation, for pesticides, for labor scheduling, visually use our front end. So we're still trying to navigate which personas are going to bring more revenue per year, but so far both personas using the marketing jargon have shown high willingness to pay.
Okay, thank you so much. I think everybody agree that Benchmark Labs and Carlos is a great addition to the life science transformation community. And you can see on the Aquillius YouTube channel, you can see a more in-depth interview with Carlos. So recommend you going there.